Is the US president right in declaring this a war on terrorist elements, not saying they're linked to Islamic extremists? Well, joining us now is Hussam Ayloush, Executive Director for the Council on American Islamic Relations, the California chapter. Mr. Ayloush, greetings to you. Now, some Muslims have said it's unfair that such a summit is being hosted in the White House and only discussing Islam. Are you of that view?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of concerns about any selective targeting of American Muslims.
So when you hear the comments that the president has made in the context of this conference, do you applaud him, even though you criticize the fact that it's just talking about Islamic extremism or talking about Islam?
Certainly, President Obama needs to be commended, must be commended for his insistence on not linking Islam and terrorism, because we all know this has nothing to do with religion, and the overwhelming majority of Muslims and almost all the scholars of Islam have rejected the ideology and the behavior of groups such as ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And we appreciate the fact that he continues to send that message clearly. We actually also appreciate the fact that he realizes and he admits that terrorism is not something that is caused by poverty or religion or ideology. It's a result. There are root causes that fuel this terrorism, such as political repression that he referred to.
Yes, and he also spoke as well about the radicalization of youth and linking it directly to poverty. But he's also said that Muslim leaders and Muslim associations, such as your own, that you have a role to play in terms of trying to counter that radicalization.
And he's absolutely right. And American Muslims and Muslims worldwide have been doing that, meaning we've been able, our role, our responsibility is to make sure that our youth know that ISIS does not represent Islam, that their theology goes against Islam, and we've been doing this, exposing them. But that's the extent of what we can do. The real work is addressing the root causes, and the root causes actually are connected to Mr. Obama, to President Obama, and the leaders of the Western countries, who, unfortunately, through their policies, have been fueling that terrorism. It's hypocritical for us to talk about democracy and even for the president. It's kind of embarrassing for him to be asking American Muslim or Muslim leaders to convince the terrorists and the youth, basically, that America is not repressing Islam and Muslims. Yeah, it's true, but America and many Western countries are actually funding and supporting governments and agencies that repress, that occupy, that violate human rights, that engages in military coups with major human rights violations. So we are fueling this hatred, this anger, which leads to extremism and eventually, for some, to terrorism.
Hussam Ayloush, thank you very much for joining us this morning. And he's the Executive Director of the Council on American Islamic Relations.